Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm having a little trouble hearing you guys. Let's see. How's it going, Jeff?
I guess we're just waiting on Mike. He should be here any minute.
Okay.
I texted him earlier today, so he knows about the meeting and should be here.
Come on.
How about Jim Welch? Is he here?
I know he's planning on attending. I spoke with him earlier, but I just don't see him on yet.
Hi, Mike. I guess we're all here now. I call the meeting to order. Do we have any, let's see, Shalisa, want to take attendance?
I can. Do you want to wait for Jim or Joe?
Is Joe coming back
Mike,
today?
did we have any minutes from last week?
Oh, brother.
I can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry. I didn't take any minutes last week, Jeff. I didn't know if I were still in the role as secretary or not. But
We still can't hear you. Is your volume turned up?
can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I can hear you, Mike.
Oh, can't hear
Yeah.
anybody. Oh, I shouldn't.
I didn't take minutes last week, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Can anyone else hear?
I can hear him.
Oh, boy. I guess I'm the
Yep.
only one. Let me see what's the matter here.
I can hear you, Jeff, and I can hear Mike. So
Can you hear me, Jeff or Kai?
yeah, I can hear you, Art.
Okay. Jeff, is Joe supposed to be back today? I don't think Jeff can hear me.
I don't think Jeff can hear any of us. I don't know personally if Joe's planning on
Well, I'm
it.
gonna try getting out and then getting back in, I guess, because I can't hear anybody.
Jim, do you happen to know if Joe is joining us today?
Yeah, sorry, I lost the email. That's what took me a few minutes here. Joe didn't get an invite, so I had tried to send him the invite that I had, but that didn't work for him to log in.
I can't hear anybody.
I'm gonna try and send that again.
I can go back on the back end on Zoom and send it.
Yeah, sorry, I lost the email. That's what took me a few minutes here. Joe didn't get an invite, so I had tried to send him the invite that I had, but that didn't work.
I just sent him a new one through Zoom, so he should receive that, a personal one for
I'm
him.
gonna try and send that again.
I can go back on the back end on Zoom and send it.
Jeff's back with us now.
I can hear everyone now.
Okay,
Oh, okay. Mike, was there any minutes from last week?
Jeff, I didn't take any minutes from last week, but I do remember that the one big issue that we left open for this week was that I believe Kai and Andrew were going to talk to their fellow landlords and talk about this issue and see what the price should be and that sort of thing. So that's the big thing we have to resolve yet, I believe, is how much are we going to charge landlords for this rental registry?
Oh, okay, Mike. Just a reminder again that, it's a recommendation that will go to the council and the council will vote on it. But I'm sure they will weigh our recommendation heavily. So with that
Yeah.
being said, Andrew and Kai, do you have an update for us?
I spoke with some other landlords. Can you guys hear me?
yep.
Okay. I think the approach seems logical that Joe put forward. So I don't think you have too much argument on our end. We did have a couple of questions though that we would like some answers to. In terms of I don't know if Jim, you can help us out here. That $100 3-year fee what is included in that? Does that include the yearly inspections? Because in part of that law, there's an annual inspections are required. So what is included in that fee?
The $100 includes everything, assuming that, so long as, I think one follow-up or maybe 2 follow-ups, I think Joe might know off the top of his head, would be included in that. Any other fees that might be associated would be something that a requested inspection, or the $100 is going to cover just about everything for anybody that's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, no, I mean, in terms of, so is that's the single inspection every 3 years?
Yes, that will cover the inspection every 3 years, and the hope is that the subsequent years people would do the self-verification.
Okay, so that's a question that we had. So have you guys discussed in the building department what fees would be? Because there is the option of doing, self-inspection by a landlord on those odd years, or hiring the building inspector. Have you guys discussed at all what you thought you might charge for an additional fee for those yearly inspections? If, say, people aren't comfortable filling out those forms and they don't want to screw something up. Have you thought about that at all?
You want to take that one, Joe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've thought about every angle of this that we could to this point. Obviously, we don't know all the details yet about where the really heavy lift is going to be, but I think that $100 is going to cover all reasonable requests for inspections during that 3-year period. Certainly, the every 3 years plus 2 follow-up inspections, and then hopefully the bulk do the self-inspections on those off years, but we'll pick up what we can.
Is that going to be mandatory, the self-inspection, those other 2 years?
It's either, yes, yes.
I guess a concern that I would have, Joe, is that if a lot of people decide to have you guys do their inspections, that's a lot of additional work. So it might become more of a cost for you guys if you're doing those yearlies. So I'd almost feel more comfortable just paying for if you guys think you can do them, great. But if a lot of people come and approach you guys and have you do those yearlies, that's a lot more work for you guys. So wouldn't that end up potentially costing more down the road for, landlords and people who register?
I mean, potentially, there's a lot of unknowns at this point. So, those are bridges I think we can cross next year, or the year after, if, the burden is too great in any specific area. I mean, our goal is not to just try and club people over the head with fees and inspections, just get it done according to the law. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I was just trying to figure out the logistics, in terms of yeah, I guess like you're saying, down the road it would be so potentially. Well, I'll leave it at that. I guess that answers my question.
Yeah, and Andrew had reached out to me about that too. But it seems like everything that's come up, Joe and I and Kyle have had some discussions, and it seems like you could make a point for anything, but really we're not going to know until we've done 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It might be best to have this committee reestablished for a brief time after each year and review where we're at, or something we could probably do just within our office.
How's that sit with you, Andrew?
Yeah, it's more information than I had previously. I didn't know how many inspections you thought you're going to be able to do with that 124. So I wasn't sure if there was some sort of pricing strategy to incentivize people to self-inspect or not. But if you think you're going to be able to do 1/3 of them plus a couple extra, I mean, it sounds like you have enough manpower with the 124 to cover. I was worried that I was worried we want to get the numbers right. And I didn't know what the 124 was going to cover. And I didn't know so it makes me feel better knowing that. It's hard to set a fee to not knowing what it's covering, but I like it. Sounds pretty good.
Well, I would just like to comment that I think, as landlords, we all kind of try to keep up with, the smoke alarms are there, that, there's not leaking pipes or whatever. So I think the self-inspection will take care of itself to some extent, because, most of us do keep our places up, and, that self-inspection won't be that much of an added burden. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I was wondering if I
I-
could choose what year as a landlord to have you come in.
Okay, so that's a good question. I think, obviously we're going to have to, develop a strategy for how we do that and when, and take the third of all that's required, do it this year, a third next year, a third the year after that. And I think the importance of the term self-inspection is that you can actually get the rental registration based on the self-inspection that we can't do this year. That kind of thing. So, our goal is to work with everybody, try and be fair. And, I mean, you guys all know us. That's what we try and do.
I guess my only other concern would be just being in the pandemic. I might have some, I don't know when you guys are thinking of starting, Joe, but I don't know. I still might have some tenants who are just nervous having people walk through until things are a little bit more settled. So, I mean, I guess if there's some flexibility on your end, I don't think most people will, but I do have some older people who might have some concerns, so I don't know if you guys had thought about that at all.
Yeah, sure. We're thinking about it, and all reasonable efforts will be made to accommodate whoever and however.
Well, I know, Joe, this COVID thing doesn't seem like it's going away anytime quick. So I guess we're gonna have to find ways to live with it and deal with it because I don't see anything in the future that's gonna, all of a sudden it's going to stop. So yes, we will need to try to figure out ways to accommodate in these times of COVID.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not going to stop tomorrow, right? It's hard to say right now, where all these vaccinations are going to take us in a couple of months. So we may have a clearer picture about, where we're at with that. But yeah, we currently do virtual inspections with people who we can't get into their places and,
Sure.
things like that. So, yeah, all reasonable efforts will be made to get the job done and make sure everybody's safe and comfortable.
Bottom line is that the registry goes into effect April 1, so landlords have to sign up by then. Is that correct, Joe?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, that's the reason we want to keep this moving, Art, because that'll be upon us rather quickly.
Yeah.
Joe, a question about publicity. How are you going to let the landlords in our community know that this is upon them now and what they're required to do?
Well, I was thinking I was going to let Kai and Andrew take care of that.
I'll only charge a small fee.
I'm sure
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know everybody in town, you know what I mean? Like, that is a good question.
Well, the city knows how to find us when it's time to pay our land taxes, so I'm assuming the similar approach would be used.
Well, that's a good database, I guess, for us to use to know at least a whole lot of the landlords.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I just
So
wonder how we get the word out.
Well, once you is the registration form. I mean, the registration form is going to be separate from like a self-inspection form. So basically, it's not going to be as involved as a self-inspection form. So you can send out a registration form to the property owners that says you're the landlord and this is how many units you have. What else is on the registration form?
Nobody likes to be surprised. So in case landlords haven't heard about this already, it might be important to start some kind of public relations campaign soon, as in maybe next week.
Would that be something for I know the city doesn't have an assessor position anymore. That would have been a good person to reach out to. Would the next step be the county assessor then? Because they would have a list of potential multifamily owners in the city. Because there is people who don't live in the community who own property here. So how would they know, if they're not following, the happenings in town, how would they know, the April 1st deadline, or unless they're contacted directly?
Well, we do all the billing here in the city.
Yeah.
So, and we do have the capability of doing mailers. I guess we missed a good opportunity having just sent the tax bills out.
Sure.
We could have included it in there, but that's something we are very capable of doing. We have the mailing list. We have the machine that can insert information in there, and maybe that would be a good way to get this information out.
Certainly.
And the Press Republican and the Sun Community News and other media outlets are always happy to help us out with that. Maybe we can use them this time as well.
Yeah, because some of these owners are kind of far flung, and it may take a while for the word to get to them.
They are.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, that is a good point. But we did roll out a version of this law last year. I mean, I think we were talking about it towards the end of 2019 too. So I don't think this is going to shock many people.
No,
Yeah,
it's just to get the word out that we're going to implement. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just the date, the filing date to make sure people are on point. Well, I guess that would be their business to figure it out. But yeah, they just have to make sure they're up to speed of the requirements.
Yeah.
Shalice, did you have anything to add?
Not at this time.
Okay. So I don't know, I guess that's a very good point. So do you want to do a resolution from our group to go with Joe's proposed fee structure? Just a recommendation, it's not.
And by the way, I'm looking at the law right now and it says commencing April 1st, 2021. Owners shall complete sign registration. So it doesn't look like it needs to be done by then.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll take a little bit of time for everyone to catch up with it.
Actually, that's a good question. Joe, how would you know if you missed somebody?
We wouldn't know right away, but they would be in violation
Yeah.
if they didn't address that themselves.
So there might be some people squeaking, falling between the cracks for a year or two, unless, until they can get tracked down.
Yeah.
It might be a good thing to reach out to the local attorneys too, because they handle a lot of the real estate closings. They could maybe notify their clients too. Anybody purchasing property, I was thinking I guess they'll know once the requirements are there.
Yeah.
They'll inform their clients.
It'll probably be something that'll need to be integrated into just about everything. When we get compliance letter requests, we'll have to have a notice about it. When we send out the tax bills, there should probably be a reminder on there.
How long does it take for a property transfer to hit the city? I mean, I know like at the end of the closing, the attorney's office walk the deed and mortgage across and file it right away. But how long does that take to hit your system to catch up with it?
I think the fastest is 30 days, but it's usually probably closer to 60 with the county website.
So
Yeah,
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim, are you still going? Okay. Section J of the rental registry law, paragraph 2 does say commencing February 1st, 2021, so 9 days ago. All written rental agreements for high occupancy rental units must contain the following language in 10 point or larger type. Please take notice that you and the landlord each have certain rights and responsibilities under the city of Plattsburgh rental registry law. There's more language there. Is that something that needs to be verified by the building inspector's office, or is there enforcement of that section?
Where is that?
Section J of the law, paragraph 2. And I'm going to assume, I'm not positive here, but I'm going to assume that any currently active leases do not need to be modified until they expire to include this language, correct?
Yeah, that's the way I read it too.
Is that something that your office is going to have to enforce? That they're going to have to sign off on this registration form, that their leases?
I think it's going to be something where, if we find out that's not there, that they could be held in violation. Yeah, it looks like it's up to them to make sure that's there.
Okay.
What if there's no lease, no written lease?
I would assume you don't have to put it in there then if there's no written.
Right, yeah, because I don't think there's a requirement actually for a written lease in New York State.
I don't think they're in this year either.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does not seem to require you to make a written lease, just that if there is a written one, it must include that language.
sure.
Well, would somebody like to make a motion that we utilize Joe's recommendation and the council and this group, this committee would recommend that we use his model for fees?
And to confirm, that's the $100 for 3 years, or if they pay it over 3 years, is it $20
Right.
per year? Or I'm sorry, not $20, $40 per year. If they pay it annually, is it $40 per year?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's 100 for 3 years. If, I don't know, that would be something we would have to decide if you wanted to be able to collect that annually to soften the blow, or if you want to just go with the whole thing all in one shot.
Yeah, we kicked that around a little bit, right? If somebody made a case for wanting to defer some of the payments, you know, that, you know, the $100 would be the upfront cost for the 3-year permit, but if they want to defer some of it, maybe it's be $40 a year for an incentive to pay it all up front. I'm not married to any part of that, so whatever we see fit, you know, we're close enough to where we need to be, so.
Well, I'd kind of like to include that in our recommendation, just so that we would be clear on that. On the method of payment. I mean, it's our recommendation and we're the people that are most involved in this at the moment. So I think we should have that part of our recommendation. How do you everyone else feel about that?
I agree. That seems reasonable.
Are we saying to give landlords an option of either $40 a year or $100 every 3 years?
I think that's what we're talking about, yeah.
It's gonna be part of our resolution. I'm okay with that. I think that's fair.
I think most people would expect to pay a little bit more if they're breaking it up because there's additional paperwork involved. So
Right.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, that's good, Shalice. Thanks for picking up on that.
Of course, that does create a little bit more overhead for Joe's office to keep track of who's paid and who hasn't. I hope you're prepared to deal with that, Joe. Hopefully it won't come up a lot.
Yeah, well, again, you know, we're just not sure where the shortcomings are gonna be at this point.
Yeah.
We'll fill in the gaps as best we can, and if we need to revisit the law and either tweak the language or, you know, figure something else out, we'll do that.
So like, the checks are gonna be, do you think they're gonna be made payable to the inspector's office? You're gonna be processing all the checks and keeping all the record, or does it go to the city and then?
Yeah, I mean, I would anticipate that it's gonna be City of Plattsburgh is where the payment's gonna be. Every fee that we take in is for City of Plattsburgh. So that's what I would see.
Yeah, that would have to go through the Chamberlain's office, I believe.
So the Chamberlain would have to keep track of the 1 versus 3 year payments.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be our office doing the bulk of that. You know, we take in all the payments and then you know, weekly submit all of that to the finance department.
So a resolution, Jeff, might read something like, the tenant landlord committee resolves to
Recommend.
recommend a 3-year fee of $100 payable in a lump sum up front, or payable in 3 installments of $40 each. Something like that sound okay?
Yeah,
So someone just has to say motion and then repeat that.
Before we
I'll make
do,
a
can I,
Oh,
sorry, can I just recommend that we also add to any resolution that we maybe recommend that this be a temporary fee, and that we also recommend that the council revisit this either in 1 year or 3 years or some period of time to determine whether or not this fee structure is working. I think we should put some language in up front to make sure that this does get revisited.
Makes sense.
okay, could somebody read that back in the form that we could vote on?
We may also want to talk about language of it being non-refundable. And the reason I say that is if somebody pays up front for a 3-year permit and then they sell the property next year, are they going to be able to be prorated back? I mean, the new owner is going to have to re-register because there's going to be all new information. So
Yeah,
I would ask the landlords if they had thoughts on that.
well, I think for this group, you might, I think the recommendation is gonna be on the fee. And those are very valid concerns, Joe. And I think we need to visit those when we get to our meeting to vote on this. And we definitely should consider that. Yeah, but I mean, for our purposes, I think we're just trying to get to the next step, which would be the fees, you know, whether they're refundable or not and all that. I don't know how deep we want to get into this. I'm just thinking that.
Sounds good.
So where do you think that would be sorted out then, Jeff?
Well, I think that could be when the council as a whole addresses the subject, and I, you know, at that point, everyone would have input again as to how they feel about these particular finer points.
Yeah, it's a fine point, and you know, it's probably a non-issue. I mean, if somebody's selling a property, they're going to make $100,000 off it, or whatever it is. I don't mean make $100,000, but whatever the sale price is, $30 for the fee that they don't get back is probably not an issue.
You know, I
be
think
surprised what we fight over at the closing table.
Yeah.
I mean,
of a few times when
I'm telling you.
I can think of a few times when citizens have come to council and requested refunds for, oh, I don't know, building permits or things because they decided not to go through with some project or something. And those are always taken on a 1-by-1 basis. And if I remember correctly, we usually vote no on those. We usually vote to keep the money, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But I mean, it happens so infrequently that, you know, it can be handled on a case-by-case basis, I guess. I mean, again, if it turns out to be something that just keeps recurring over and over again, then yeah, we probably should take some kind of formal action with it. But I don't see any need for that right away.
How does everyone else feel about that?
Face that issue down the road. The mayor wants us to come up with some numbers. That's our basic thing we have to do with this committee. I think somebody's ready to make a motion.
Well,
Okay,
I'll make a motion that the tenant landlord committee recommend to the city council, and I hope somebody's writing this down as I say it, make a recommendation to the city council that the fee for the rental registry program be set at $100 per 3 years, or if landlords choose to have an option to pay in 3 installments of $40 each. So that will be my motion. If anyone wants to second it.
I will second it.
Yeah,
Okay.
seconded by Art. Any further discussion on moving that forward? If not, we'll do a roll call. Shalice,
Yes.
Art,
Yes,
Andrew,
Yes.
Kai,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jim,
You're muted.
Sorry, yes.
okay, and Joe, you're not on the group, so not gonna ask it. You had to do the heavy lifting, so we're doing this part.
Right.
Okay, so the motion is carried. And I guess that will be the end of this committee in its present form. I think that there was some people that wanted to continue looking at different issues. And that'll be up to the mayor whether he wants to continue on with that, but I know that, if anyone is interested, they will speak up. And I especially want to thank Andrew and Kai. I know you're taking time out of your busy day to come in and get your input in here, but it's very,
Anything for the city. That's my attitude.
well, it's very valuable input, and we really appreciate it. With that being said, I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn, and disband the committee.
Motion to adjourn.
Jim, second.
Second.
Nobody wants to leave. Oh, thanks, Mike. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Well,
Bye. Bye.
thank you very much, everyone.
See ya. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye.